Bangladesh is one of the poorest countries in the world with a gross national product per capita of $380 in 2000. Although it has made improvements in its growth rate, 78% of the population still lives on less than $2 per day. Thus, widespread poverty and malnutrition are major issues in Bangladesh. About 75 million people, which is equivalent to 50% of Bangladesh's population, cannot afford an adequate diet. Moreover, since demand for labor is in agriculture is seasonal, the rural landless, which make up about 50% of rural households, remain virtually unemployed during the slack season. Therefore, Bangladesh has responded by implementing programs that try to generate employment, particularly in rural areas, in hopes of reducing poverty. One of these strategies is the Food for Work program. The Food for Work program started in 1975 in response to the 1974 famine. A major objective of the program is to provide income to the rural poor during the slack period when the unemployment rate in rural areas increases. Thus, the FFWP sets up seasonal construction and agricultural supporting infrastructure jobs for the qualified poor. In exchange for labor, the FFWP pays laborers with wheat instead of cash. In the short term, the program has the ability to improve food security for the rural poor who participate, and in the long term, it has the potential to improve food security in society by facilitating economic development at a national level through better infrastructure, for example.
The Food for Work program has been a step in the right direction to improve Bangladesh's development and growth. One of the pros of the FFWP is that it creates off-season employment, which is usually from January to May, for the poorest of the poor and virtually landless people. Since the poor have a low opportunity cost of time, there is an incentive to work. The value of the wheat they receive from the FFWP is greater than what they would have earned from a casual job. This program reaches its target group because only the people in the most need will be willing to do laborious work to receive food. The majority of the participants have no land or a very minuscule amount, little education, a low income, and hold many small casual jobs year round. According to a study done in the mid 1980s, 85% of participants were illiterate, 10% had no homestead of their own, 70% were virtually landless, meaning holding less than zero point 0.5 acres of land, and an income per capita less than half of the national average. The FFWP has been able to accommodate the majority of people who are physically able and willing to participate. Once the poor and landless meet their food need, they are able to focus their incomes on other needs. For example, income could be spent on shelter improvements, clothing, and repayments of loans, which will eventually lead to improved creditworthiness. As a result of the new infrastructure in rural areas around Bangladesh, this has led to an increase in rural development. Evidence has shown that rural villages with new infrastructure have increased labor force participation and overall income. Another indirect pro of the FFWP is that the increased food supply earned by participants allow them to provide meals to children, which allow these children to be more effective and focused at school. With many pros come cons. One of the main cons is corruption within the program itself. An example of this corruption is that participants have not always been paid according to initial agreements with the FFWP leaders. According to a previous study, 46.6% of participants were not paid according to their earlier agreement. Participants were paid about 20% less than they were entitled to, even though, on average, participants achieved higher productivity than estimated. Along with this, there has been a low availability of wheat, so participants have been paid in cash. The Food for Work program in Bangladesh has been set up so the only form of wage participants should be wheat or paddy. This rule has not been followed, and participants are not aware of this rule. About 35.1% of participants have admitted to have been paid in cash at some point during their participation in the program. The FFWP also does not regulate how the cash is spent, which can lead to participants spending cash on things that will not lead to development or growth. Another con of the FFWP is the long hours that participants endure. 59.7% of participants work more than 8 hours a day, and 9.4% work more than 11 hours a day. The FFWP doesn't regulate how the food is shared among family members. There have been cases where men have not shared the earned food with their wife or children.
Various statistics show that the program has been beneficial to Bangladesh. Since the program's establishment, the allocation of food to the program has increased steadily year by year. This means that more work is being done and more people are participating in the program. In the 1990s, the program was estimated to produce 100 million days of employment each year for the total number of participants. Additionally, the World Bank estimated that the program produces at least 17 extra days of employment for each landless laborer in the construction industry. The extra days of employment that are produced in other industries affected by the program has yet to be estimated. The infrastructure created by the program has allowed for remarkable gains in output and income. It accounts for a 24% increase in agricultural income, 78% increase in livestock and fisheries income, and a 17% increase in business and industry income. The larger increases in income, which occur in agriculture, livestock, and fisheries, affect the landless and functionally landless farmers. On the other hand, the modest increase in business and industry income affects the large landowners. As a result, the gains positively impact income distribution. The infrastructure created also increases the participation in the labor force in those villages granted with the new infrastructure. A large increase in the participation is attributed to women. This change has the potential to raise women's income and status, which can result in a decrease in birth rates and increase in better child nutrition.
Given the widespread problem with undernourishment in Bangladesh, we believe that this Food for Work program has been effective in targeting a pressing problem. What makes this program even more effective is its ability to help only those that truly need it. A unique screening mechanism is that there's an incentive for self-selection, since it's highly unlikely that the rich will choose to participate in a labor-intensive job just for food. Likewise, since the program distributes wages in wheat, which has been shown to be an inferior good in rural areas of Bangladesh, only the poorest would work for this form of compensation. Thus, this program is geared to helping only those who are truly poor. FFWP has also worked because more people are willing to support a program that does not distribute cash, because people can use cash for other purposes, such as for drugs or illegal activities.
There are several limitations to the Food for Work program instituted in Bangladesh. This program comes with a myriad of problems, although some are not limited to food for work. One problem, corruption, can easily occur in the system with ample opportunities to skim profits. However, corruption can be seen in almost all economies and is nearly impossible to completely prevent. Another problem is that the program itself may not be able to help the poorest, as they may be too weak to work and can't enter the labor force if they want to. For them, potentially, only welfare that lifts them out of this absolute low is going to alleviate their problems. Other issues that arise with this Food for Work program is that due to the low skill and investment of the program, they lack solid engineering, and several of their roads have washed out. For infrastructure to greatly benefit these communities, they need to have a long-term gain from what they have built, otherwise employment isn't contributing to a better economic position. One of the reasons that the Food for Work program has worked so well in Bangladesh is that their country has relatively diverse land ownership. This enables the infrastructure improvements to benefit the poor more. Other countries with more exclusive land ownership will benefit less from infrastructure improvements because the poor have less access to the changes. Despite the limitations of these programs, there are Food for Work programs currently in place in other countries. Currently, India has a nationwide Food for Work program that supplies food for their workers in their, quote, 150 most backward districts in their nation. On top of this, there are also areas within the program that they can expand on. An example of this is the Food for Education program that has just recently entered into Bangladesh. This program supplies food to students attending school and has seen a decrease in dropout rates and an increase in enrollment. A similar program is currently run in Mexico. Their program, Oportunidad, provides cash assistance to those who keep their kids in school and provide governmental health care focused on preventative issues. The cash transfers that Oportunidad offers seems to have more potential for abuse, so Bangladesh's Food for Education program seems like a more ideal expansion of the Food for Work program.